we allowed to use the Wi-Fi here? Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Anna Sothen here with RVA Connected and at the ESPN Richmond with my King Biz. And I have my friend, finally, this guy ditched me like 3 times.
Scheduling conflicts.
Scheduling conflicts. Some of them were legitimate, like when your wife had mouth surgery. Like that's
yeah,
what
that was legitimate. I didn't make that one.
No, you did not. And then I text her afterwards and I'm like, how'd your surgery go? And she's like, how did you know? And it was a little weird. But anyway, but I'm excited to finally have him here on the radio show to learn a little bit about who he is, what he does, and the services that you provide here in Richmond. So,
Sure.
All right. So tell people who you are.
Well, I'm like Anna said, I'm Kevin Griffith. I own Griffith Heating and Cooling. We are in the Midlothian area, but we service all the surrounding areas. Pretty much everything, like Monty would say, everything Richmond touches.
Okay.
And we've been around since 2004, and we are an American Standard customer care dealer. And yeah, we do mainly residential, some light commercial, retail replacement, service, maintenance, and yeah.
I love it. So you guys, when I came into your office, you had quite a few American Standard awards.
Yep.
They did it every single year.
I have. We've hit it every year from 2006 to present. But when COVID happened, the plaque stopped.
Oh.
We used to have a what's called a yearly dealer meeting where all the American Standard dealers go to, whatever, location and celebrate and stuff like that. And we hit #1 for every year ever since. But when COVID happened, they stopped doing the plaques and stopped doing what's called the dealer meetings.
Gotcha.
Kind of changed the outlook.
COVID changed a lot of things.
But they just tell us instead now.
Now they just tell you and give you a high five and a pat on the back.
We don't have the plaques anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they'll send us a nice email and
okay.
They'll take us on a trip every year. So.
Oh, the trip's probably more.
Yeah, I like the trip.
Right, probably. Yeah. It's the memories versus the gifts.
Exactly.
I wish my kids could do that for Christmas, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
So you started the business in 2004, right? So let's talk a little bit about the journey of so why did you start your own business versus buying a franchise? That's always a really great question for people because with buying a franchise and you buy the name, so you have the backing of it versus starting your own. And then what are some of the things that you have learned along the way of being in business for now 22 years?
Sure. Well, back in 2004, I probably didn't know what a franchise was.
So okay, fair enough.
Probably why I didn't go down that road. But so all my family did heating and air. I grew up in the industry. My father did heating and air. My uncle owned another heating and air business in Virginia.
Okay.
And then my other also worked for him. So
oh, wow. So really, when you say in the business, the family was in the business.
Yeah, I was in crawl spaces doing duct work, 12, 13 years old on Saturdays. And
again, what am I doing with my children?
Then it led to after school. At that time, I worked for free. I didn't know any better.
Right.
It was like, hey, I'm with my dad. But,
yes, exactly. He's putting a roof over your head and food in your belly, so you got paid.
He got by with that for a few years until I got a little smarter.
Right.
And I just got into it by doing duct work. And in high school, I went to work for the same company my dad was working for in the evenings and weekends and doing duct work. And that kind of led into I want to do more.
Okay.
I didn't want to call in the crawl spaces the rest of my life. I want to actually be the guy who works on a unit that comes to the customer's house that has no heat or no air conditioning, and what can I do to fix that? The technical part. So I kind of left after high school. I left there and went to a big company here in Richmond, and moved up pretty quick. They gave me the proper training.
Okay.
And went to service, did maintenance, cleaning units, stuff like that. Rode with senior service technicians, and learned the technical side. And with the technical side comes a lot more hours. Like you're working 7 days a week. I remember one summer, 4th of July. I started on the 4th of July. I worked probably 60 days straight.
Oh,
At that time, it was busy times.
that's
But you know what? I was 20.
okay.
You know, I had a lot of time on my hands. So
Yeah.
so did that. And then when I got that under my belt, I was like, man, I want to do more.
Okay.
I want to see how, you know, we design systems and come up with efficiencies and, you know, tailor custom systems for homeowners and do commercial as well. So,
okay.
you know, I had the opportunity to go to another company to learn that, and they trained me up real well. And within 6 months, I was service manager, which that was not in my expectation that quick. But,
Okay.
so I was leading a team of 7 technicians. And
Do you think that was because of your previous training and all the stuff that you had done?
yeah, because a lot of your service managers today, you know, mine included, with us now, they don't really have the ductwork side.
Gotcha.
Of
Okay.
things. Ductwork leads into a lot of technical stuff and vice versa.
Okay.
That comes with that. But the biggest struggle I have with that is leadership at that point.
Oh.
So yeah, I was
Because you were how old at that point?
21. I just
Okay.
turned 21. So yeah, so you know, I could fix it, no problem. But I would, you know, if they had an issue, I would go out there and take care of it for them versus
Teaching.
being a leader and
Gotcha.
going through all the motions like that. So,
Okay.
but I got better. You know, it came with time.
Yeah.
But you know, some criticism, stuff like that. But
Did you take the criticism well?
I did
Okay.
because somebody better than me was telling me and criticizing me. So yeah, he was a great leader, and you know, I am where I am today because of him.
I love that.
One of those owners. So from that point, you know, everything was great, and you know, I knew the next step was for me was ownership. So at 23. Some things took place in between that time.
Right.
You know, I went to work for a commercial company and took some classes and stuff to get my proper licensing, and you know, made sure I did it the right way.
Right.
And then in 2004, I was 23 and jumped into the deep end and went for it.
That's awesome.
Had a 6-month-old at the time too, so you know, that was
so,
fun.
Yeah. So putting everything on the line, starting your own business.
Yeah.
And leaving behind something that was comfortable and that you knew.
Yeah.
To do your own thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive,
Yeah.
especially at 23 years old.
Yeah. It was pretty simple because I only had like maybe 2-3 customers a day.
Okay.
Which for a single business owner, you doing everything, bookkeeping, service, installation, that was manageable. So,
right. Yeah.
But then, you know, it got busier and busier. Did a little bit of advertising for the first time in a local paper in Colonial Heights. And with that came a lot of calls. Not like that today. You know, you got to spend, you know, your advertising budget so high today, and you hope to get the call and convert that call to, you know, a job. But it came easy, and you know, we start hiring, and you know, grew out my garage at my house into an office building / shop, and went from there to another one, and went from there to a huge one we're still in today, 15 years later. So
that's awesome.
It's
Yeah, well, it's funny because business owners get into business because they love what they do, right? So you obviously have a passion for what you do, but then they realize that now they're the bookkeeper and the HR person and all of these different things. And you're like, but I just wanted to work on the units. Like that's, you know, so you don't realize, I mean, you realize what you're going to have to do in order to be a business owner. Sure. But then when you realize the actual like amount of time that it takes, there's a great book. It's called The Who, Not the How, that talks specifically about that. Like she goes into business and then realizes, oh crap, I have to do all these things.
Sure.
And then you talked about advertising. It's funny because people are like, you know, as a business owner, you're like, if I'm putting this money out there, if I'm giving you, you know, $1,000, I want $2,000 back. Right. We want that ROI. Right.
Oh yeah.
But I learned that, so in order to keep your business status quo as to wherever you are currently today, maintain that current revenue, you should spend about 10% of your gross annual, not net, but gross
and that's
in
hard.
advertising.
That's hard. That's hard to get the mindset.
Yeah. So I told that to somebody yesterday. I'm like, so if you're making $1 million a year, you should be spending about $100,000 in advertising and marketing. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. And I said, and if you want your business to grow, it's more like 30%. And they're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Which is all a tax write-off. But when you think about it, like there's a lot that comes out of, and you're right, like you put it out there hoping that somebody's going to call you, but that's really not the purpose of marketing.
Right. Yeah. It it's brand recognition and
correct,
over time and stuff like that. But my biggest thing is, I never always followed 10% every year, but because it's hard, like I said, it's hard. But every year we put a budget together and we try, have budgets laid out and we know what we're going to spend or potentially going to spend going into the year. And that made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's where I've learned along the years to have a business plan and, where I made mistakes, where I've, could have done things better and learned other ways. So yeah, it's hard to, and it's hard to pick what you think is going to work.
Correct.
Everybody's advertising. They have great pitches,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
This, that, whatever. And some of them, you may not see anything off of it. You may see one, 6 months down the road and it may pay for the whole year, that one big one. But it's at the end of the day, it's referrals are your number one. And then, whatever everything else
is the bolstering of it.
Make a good reputation with your customers so you get that continued growth and referrals. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we met in BNI, right? So you've been part of BNI for how long?
Griffith has been a part of the Abundance BNI since 2008.
Okay.
With my former sales manager Bobby Quinn, and then I took it over from him in 2019.
Okay.
So 7 years.
Wow. Okay. So has it been? Obviously, it's been beneficial, right? Since you've been since 2008. I mean, we're talking about 18 years.
Oh, sure.
That you've been in, obviously.
It's been a great relationship with everybody in there. A lot of good friendships.
Yeah.
A lot of great business relationships, and a lot of great advice comes out of that group, and learning and everything else. So,
it's interesting when you get so many different individuals. It's like my mastermind that I do. It's always really great to have different perspectives from people from different industries.
Sure.
The heating and cooling industry, but somebody could take a look at something if you ask them a question and they have a different perspective because of the industry that they're in, that could provide you with something that you're like, oh, I never thought about that. Right. So that's really, really great.
For sure.
So you recently, I say recently, when did you purchase AirRight?
I purchased AirRight in September of 2023.
Oh, okay. So it's been longer than, for some reason I thought it was like within the last year.
Where are we? I guess
we're in 26.
2.5.
March, April. What are we? April.
2.5, 3, 4 years. Something like that. Yeah.
So what made you do that? What made you acquire?
One night of drinking the Kool-Aid, I guess. I don't know. I've thought about it a couple times, like, why in the world did I do this?
Yeah.
But no, it just needed, we want to grow market share. It was a great opportunity at the time. It was really close to Griffith.
Okay.
So they're within, a quarter mile of each other. And they weren't doing great. And it's more of a new construction background versus Griffith is more of a, residential, existing retail service installation. So it's a completely different format from what Griffith Heating and Cooling is. So, it was just another opportunity. The company, dating back, that company has changed ownership, I don't know, twice, maybe 3 times since like 2008-ish. But dating back, that was the company that I originally became service manager at.
Oh, full circle.
A lot of long stories there.
Okay.
But, so, I knew the history, and they weren't always a new construction company. They were actually a really large, reputable, residential, light commercial service company. So, they had a great customer base and still do, but it wasn't being utilized that way with all the new construction and stuff like that. So we're trying to, turn the ship and make it, make it to look like or try to mirror what Griffith does. So,
So what's the thought process? Because I've always wanted to ask you this, of like keeping it AirRight versus now just it's a division of Griffith Heating and Cooling.
Back it was a 30-day sale. It was it was like, hey, take it or leave it. Didn't really know what I was getting into. Didn't know the tax ramifications and, what all came with that.
Okay.
Learned that pretty quick.
Sometimes you learn by trial by fire.
Yeah. So, it's just a really quick deal. It's not even a division of Griffith, really. I set up a different LLC and opened totally separate. And, just the thought if I needed to, do something different in the future, I had the opportunity not to be part of Griffith to, just,
Gotcha. It's not commingled.
Just to be safe.
Yes, it's not commingled.
I can't have anything messing with my baby.
Yeah.
Griffith even.
Yeah.
That's where I was put in, sweat and tears put into. It was just a thought process like that.
Okay.
At it, yeah, it's like, probably could have merged the two and probably still can down the road.
Right.
But, both of them do pretty good on their own and, great people at both. So that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Had a lot of great people along the way and still do, and long-term people too. So yeah,
which is hard to find nowadays.
Oh, it's hard to believe. I have 7 employees that are over 10 years. I have 4 that are over 15 years.
That's amazing.
You don't for a 23-year-old company. So I do have one that's 23 years.
That's awesome.
That's you.
Yeah.
I do have another that's 22 years. So,
okay.
Yeah.
But no, and I joke about that, but there's really not a lot of longevity in people with business, especially in your industry, because it is so hard.
So hard and competitive.
And you're going, like you said, you're going under people's crawl spaces when it's 110 degrees outside or when it's really freaking cold and they're working on, units. It's not fun and games every single day.
The crawl space is the nice area. It's the attic when it's 110 degrees outside.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Right. That would be backwards. Yeah.
That slows productivity down just a little bit.
I bet. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about when you took over AirRight, how was that transition with the people who were currently at the business? Were they excited? Did a lot of them leave? Did a lot of them stay? What was that like?
We did, as expected with anything, with new ownership, we did lose probably 10% of the employee base.
That's terrible.
Which is expected.
Yeah.
Actually, more than that's really expected. But we retained a lot of people. Like I said, they had great people. But the problem is now we're expecting them to teach. We're teaching them to run it like we've always had.
Oh.
And it's totally different from what they have always done.
Gotcha.
And so that was, a learning curve for everybody, including myself. But we got there, and like I said, they had great people. They had long-term people. We still do. We have at least 3 of them that have been there 10 plus years.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's it was a challenge, but we're doing great now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So as we're wrapping up here, what would you, as a business owner, is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody to help them in their journey, whether it's starting a new business or currently are in their business? What's some of the things that you've learned that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I had never done that?
A good accounting for taxes and understanding.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
Yes.
No, just,
And what I'll say to that is hire a professional.
Always.
We always think that we could do it.
Not in-house. It's not.
Yes. Well, my husband's a CPA, so he thinks he knows all the things, but it's really he doesn't keep up with it because he's CFO of a bank, right? Your job is to run your business, not to know the tax laws. And so you're not going to know the ins and outs. Mm-hmm. And you could do something, as a business owner, could do something that's pretty detrimental to your business.
Right.
Or there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're leaving on the table because you have no idea what you can do or not do. So that's great advice. I think that, a professional hire a professional to do your taxes.
Professional. But I don't know. Number one thing I've not really learned, I've always known this, but customer is always number one. Okay. And yes, everybody knows that. Treat the customer like you would want to be treated. Be honest with them. Give them options. Do the basics. Do what you're going to say when you're going to do it. Always answer the phone, and just warranty everything you do, and it'll always come back threefold. But and then good people, trust your people.
Okay.
You're not going to be, if you don't trust your people, if you don't have your people you can rely on, here long.
Yeah.
You're going to burn yourself out. You're doing it yourself, and you're going to lose everything that comes along with that. So
yeah, that's I think that's huge, and I think culture is huge as well too. And
huge.
So, well, let's talk about that real quick, because I think that's important. Like, how do you do that, right? Because so you're not in the field much, if at all, nowadays.
I'll get in there if I have to.
Okay.
But no, I mean, if it gets really hot in the summer, I'll have to, I'll jump in a truck and do some service calls.
Yeah.
I might have to call my service manager or my general manager or tech support every now and again, because things have changed just a little bit since I've done it full time. But I'll still jump in there and do what I got to do.
Yeah. So culture's huge. And so knowing that, I think of what's that show, Undercover Boss. I mean, obviously they know who you are, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how. I wish I could do that.
Right. Yeah. Maybe one day when you get big enough, you'll be the undercover guy. But I think about that because it's really important to know what your employees are doing, and like you said, also trusting them, right? So they have to be comfortable working for you. You also have to be comfortable with the job that they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And making sure that they're treating the customer the way that you want them to be treated, because that'll bring them back.
Exactly.
All right. One last piece of advice before we hop off here.
One piece of advice?
Or one last thing that you would want to share with somebody.
I don't know. Just don't treat everyone well. Don't blow up on a situation. Think it out, and usually you'll come to find out it's not as bad as it.
Sleep on it
as it came to you. So
I think that's really great advice.
Yeah,
because a lot of people will respond to things, gut reaction, and then realize, oh, now that I have more information, like, ooh, that maybe wasn't as.
I've made a lot of mistakes that way. So if I try to burn that in my head. If I have a situation come across my desk that's not good, just take a minute. Take an hour.
Right.
Go get some lunch. Whatever, and try to dissect it out. And typically, it's not as bad as it seems. So,
I love it. All right. So, tell them your website and then your phone number for them to reach you.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm like I say, Griffith Heating and Cooling. We're based in Midlothian. You can look us up on all social media. We're at griffithhvac.com or at Griffith HVAC. Phone number is 804 that's my cell phone number. 804-744-0850. Sorry.
Awesome.
804-744-0850.
Well, one you probably don't call it often.
I do not. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Right. So it's like one of the things.
A lot of customers have my cell phone number.
Right.
So
Well, I will say that is one of the things like that I pride myself. Like when I tell people, hey, I've got the guy, like usually I have the business owner's phone number.
And that's the thing.
I'm always very cognizant of making sure that I'm okay with it.
I'm in a lot of roundtable groups and business groups, stuff like that. And that's the thing, never give your cell phone. That's the thing with Griffith and AirRight. A lot of customers have my cell phone. Every customer has my general manager's cell phone. And that's how we, communicate and, have that personal touch with the customer. Right. So, I can get a lot done quicker than a customer getting frustrated, going through the office, leaving a voicemail, leaving an email, stuff like that. So communication.
I think that's huge. Well, thank you for being here.
This was absolutely. Sorry, I had to reschedule a couple times.
Well, everything happens for a purpose, and you were here when you needed to be. And I'm a firm believer. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure you tune in next week as we will come back. I actually don't even know who's on next week. I should probably look at that. But if you want to get in touch with Griffith, if you need your system taken a look at, they put a brand new system in for ours, which we absolutely needed, but now it's wonderful. Definitely reach out to them, or if you can't reach them, then just reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the head guy. Right. So I know the guy. All right. Thank you guys for being here. As always, stay fluid, my friends. I'm always cheering for you. Have a great day. Bye.